Baie goeie idee is u verskoning soek om vir iemand 'n baie interessante en nuttige geskenk te koop. Nuttig in die sin miskien om iemand se tyd vir hom om te kry. Baie geluk in die Vrystaat wat 'n oorwinning behaal het daar in die onder 20 wedstryd op Loftesversveld. En ons sê weer eens vir u welkom hier by ons TSS uitsending. As u sopas dalk moontlik ingeskakel het, u is gelukkig. Maar is nog so bietjie minder, so op 10 minute na nog 3 ure van motorsport regstreeks uit Kaapstad op die program. En die motors wat op die oomblik besig is om 2 opwarmingsrondes te voltooi, is die motors wat gaan deelneem aan die Wesbank gemodifiseerde sedanmotor wedren, die eerste van 2. En dis die groot kanonne van Suid-Afrikaanse motorsport. Dis 'n Suid-Afrikaanse nasionale kampioenskapswedren wat ons hier gaan sien. En ons is bly om te sien dat die 2 Audi Quattro turbos vandag hier in aksie gaan wees vir die eerste keer in 'n hele klompie maande. Hulle is weer terug op die baan. Sarel van der Merwe en Chris Aberdeen in aksie in hierdie wedren. Dan het ons ook vir Graham Duxbury in sy Sasol Ford Sapphire. Ongelukkig net een van hulle wat vandag hier gaan jaag, George Forshey, wat natuurlik in die buiteland met 'n sportmotorwedren vas is. Een van die ander motors wat ons ook al geleer ken het die afgelope tyd is Willie Hepburn in sy Opel Rekord, die NASCAR V8 engine, 5,7 liter V8 engine wat hy daar onder die engine kap het, en hy is ook hier in klas A. Dan die nuwelinge vandag is die 2 BMW 535 Winfield BMW motors. Daar sien die Sarel van der Merwe se Audi Quattro wat besig is om sy tweede opwarmingsronde te voltooi. Net een van die BMW's wat vandag hier in aksie gaan wees. Dion Joubert agter die stuur van daai motor. Tony Viana agter die stuur van daardie motor. So daar is baie aksie en opwinding wat hier voor lê. Die skare het gekom om te kom kyk. Ons kyk hier rond en ons sien die mense staan regop. Daar is Ben Morgenrood, een van die ander groot name natuurlik, wat ons nou ongelukkig nagelaat het. Ben Morgenrood ook hier in klas A in sy Autofit Mazda 323. En hy gaan ook nou hier optrek om sy wegspringposisie in te neem. Die skare staan reeds oral waar hulle is, regop, hang aan die drade, staan regop op die paviljoene, sodat elkeen die beste moontlike uitsig kan kry op hierdie wedren, want dit is waarvoor hulle vandag gekom het, hier na die Killarney renbaan in Kaapstad. Pragtige dag, soos ons al reeds 'n talle kere gesê het. Daar sien jy die 2 Audi Quattro turbos op die voorste en die derde wegspringposisie. Sarel van der Merwe, wegspringposisie nommer 1, soos ons al gewoon geraak het aan hom. Net langsom gaan dit wees Ben Morgenrood, is besig om daarin te beweeg nou. Hy gaan in die tweede wegspringposisie in beweeg. Agter Sarel is dit sy Audi spanmaat in die Bowsel Audi, Chris Aberdeen. En daar is die ou en Ashley ontwikkelde BMW 535 met Tony Viana agter die stuur. Dit lyk of die brandstof so 'n bietjie vol is. Brandstof wat bietjie uitloop daar soos hy deur die draaier gaan. Maar kyk net daardie motor. Hy is eksklusief aan Suid-Afrika. Hy is hier ontwikkel, gebou, ontwerp gebou en ontwikkel in Kaapstad, hier by die Killarney renbaan deur Owen Ashley, wat alreeds 'n legende in sy eie tyd hier in Suid-Afrikaanse motorsport geword het vir sy ontwerp en vervaardiging van sportmotors en van enkelsitplekmotors. Tony Viana agter die stuur wat daardie motors se bande bietjie warm probeer kry. En dit gaan baie interessant wees om te sien wat vandag die vertoning gaan wees wat hierdie motor gaan lewer. Roger, dit is werklik een van die hoogtepunte vandag.
Absolutely a beautiful motor car developed here down in Cape Town. I think it might just be sliding on the fuel that it is dripping. It's had a little bit of trouble there with some of the oil supply position, but it's just got onto its wheels yesterday, and it's certainly going to give a good account of itself, or we hope so. Well, we've got down on the grid, we've got Louis Carpers, we've got a whole team of commentators down here. He's standing next to Sarel van der Merwe car.
Well, the adrenaline's certainly pumping here on the start line for the first heat of the Wesbank modified saloon cars. Before we talk to Sarel van der Merwe, let's have a chat to Dick Sorensen. Dick is the chairman of the Wesbank Modified Association. Dick, a lot of ups and downs through the course of the season.
Yeah, it hasn't been an easy season, not at all.
Having a look at the rules and the changes and the problems that have come out of it, do you think the sport is going to grow from it?
Yes, it will. The rules actually haven't changed. We built 3 variables into the rules at the start of the year, and we've used those 3 variables. In the early part of the year, the competitors didn't like the fact that the controllers changed the variables. The latter part of the year, we've allowed them to be automatic changes. We designed a formula and they're automatic changes, and the competitors and the motor manufacturers are a lot happier with it now.
Well, let's find out if the competitors are a lot happier with it. Cyril van der Merwe back on the first row of the grid and back in the Audi. You must be happy to be racing again.
Yes, it is nice to be back again after the 4 months layoff. But it's a nice crowd here today, and the car was feeling quite good in practice. So I just hope it's going to last.
Cyril, having a look at some of the other competitors while the Audis have been out, they certainly have been doing some changes and going very quickly indeed, haven't they?
Well, I think Ben's Mazda is phenomenal really, and I expect a very hard time from him today. And of course the Fords are very good. Duxbury is right here with us, so I think it's anybody's race really.
Well, there it is from Cyril van der Merwe, and they're almost time to start. We go back to Roger McCleary.
Thanks very much indeed, Louis. And Ben Morgenrud, after 3 wins at 3 race meetings, certainly is one of the major competitors. There's the Sabre team out in force. They're sponsoring today's meeting. Larry Wolford in 15. Behind him the Porsche Carrera. There's Cyril van der Merwe with his team around him. That's the Bosel Audi of Chris Aberdeen, who's done very well. All these drivers have won races this year. It's that competitive. Just sneaking in the background, the Sassel Ford Sapphire. Number 8 is Graham Duxbury. Little bit of few problems yesterday with the gearbox. They've sorted that out, and he's on the second row of the grid. Ben Morgan, of course, he's won the last 3 races, and he means to win here today. His car's carrying quite a lot of weight. Some of the penalties that Dick Sorensen, the chairman of the Wesbank Association, was talking about. Well, I see Louis just moved up to the window there with Graham Duxbury. Let's hear Graham's thoughts on this race.
Thanks, Roger. Well, Graham, how do you see the race going?
Yeah, I think that Cyril so far is by far the quickest. Ben is very, very quick as well. Chris and I seem to be about the same as Willie Hepburn. But I think you may well find it's going to be a race between Cyril and Ben.
You're going to be behind them both, especially at the start. How are you going to go?
Well, that's the problem. Ben is the slowest car on the track in terms of acceleration. The 2 Audis are quicker. So what I've got to worry about is the 2 Audis go, then Willie is going to come up behind. And if Ben goes in 4th, then I'm going to go in 5th. So the first corner is going to be quite interesting. Hopefully we're all going to get round it.
How's the car been going?
Yeah, the engine is absolutely perfect. I think the chassis is a little, it's not quite as good as the Audi, but we'll do what we can.
Well, wait and see. Roger, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. Well, Graham certainly, he's won at Killarney. He holds lap records. There's nothing wrong with those Sassel Ford Sapphires for sure. But there's the danger man. Number 2, Ben Morgan, Randfontein design, built, the Autofit Maz. It's a triple rotor motor, fairly unique in the world. And if you haven't seen it before, it sounds like a Grand Prix motorcycle as it comes towards you in a V12 Ferrari as it goes away from you. It's going to be a rolling start lap. It's a 10-lapper. This race is 2 races here this afternoon, and this is the race that has brought the crowd. Cyril van der Merwe, the Springbok, 11 times rally champion, on the front row of the grid in the Works Audi. Sounding very smart indeed. You might just hear over our voice that crackle of the Mazda triple rotor. Ben Morgenrud's alongside him on the front row. Then it's Aberdeen and Duxbury, saying that Morgenrud's not that quick off the line. We'll have to see that one. Then Willie Hepburn and that big, massive Opel record is there too. I see Brian Bezuidenhout is back. George Bezuidenhout, the D-class man in the 1600cc Nissan Sentra, is in there as well. And Keith Garth getting pushed away from the line. He's a very competitive man in the 2-litre class. Put up some great performances this year. Here they come towards us. Big field of cars. There's nearly 30 of them in this field. On the right-hand side of your screen, the Works Audi. There's 2 of them in the field. Just behind him, the Bosel Audi. Bosel, the exhaust people. Chris Aberdeen, who's done so well this year, also racing for GTR Racing. There's Larry Wolford, alongside the current man leading the Wesbank Modified Championship in the Gearmax Skyline, and that's Johan Coetzee. That's that white Skyline. Behind him, he's got Ivor Ross from King Williamstown. There's that beautiful Winfield BMW of Tony Viana's first time out. It's only done about 5 or 6 laps, so not too much expected of it. Things have got to be sorted out when you get into this sort of competition. But Viana, a man never to be underestimated, can pull amazing things out of the bag. There's the Carrera Porsche of Gary Dunkley. He's won 3 races this year so far. Ivor Ross in those BP colours. Larry Wolford is there in that Skyline. As they come down towards us, the Sabat Golf there is of Peter Lance. I can just hear the popping and squeaking of those turbos. They come down, they're just trying the acceleration out. The man who's got to come across the line first is the pole man, Cyril van der Merwe. So he'll cross the line at exactly the speed he wants to be going, with as much power and torque as he needs. So it'll be at his speed that they cross the starting line. Ben Morgan, who is warming up his Dunlop tyres in a big way. He wants to be heavy on the brakes. Quite a heavyweight car now, having won 3 races. He gets 40 kilos added to his weight every time he wins, so the car's carrying quite a lot of weight. 23 is Johan van Rensburg in yet another Skyline. That BMW is certainly looking a beauty. There's Brian Bezaden, that blue and white car. As they come up towards us, it's Sarel van der Merwe on the right-hand side with the Bosel Audi right on his tail. He's still keeping it very slow indeed. He knows he's got the massive acceleration. Here he goes. And Morgan, who tucks in behind him, gets right in behind him to get a tow. As they get away from the Sabred line onto the anchors for Holzhoek. It's Morgan, and the Sapphire's got through into third spot. Graham Duxbury has been pulled along there by the Mazda and has got himself into third. He's ahead of Aberdeen, and here comes Willie Hepburn in the yellow Opel V8 record. He's trying to push his way around, and Willie can do this. Four-wheel drive and not on the inside. He's got the power, and that's a mighty machine, that V8. 5.7 litres of Ryan Faulkner V8 American NASCAR engine. You can hear the popping and squeaking of the turbos. That's the Audis. They go through and get pushed to the outside of Duckham's corners. They come up towards us. Exhaust come out the side of these motor cars, and Morgan Root is right tucked in behind him. Graham Duxbury in that Sassel Ford. He's got the other pack behind him. It's Aberdeen, and it's Willie Hepburn. And there's Willie Hepburn. You've got the heat coming out of the side of his motor car as he pours across Aberdeen in a big hurry. That's what a big capacity motor can do, and Morgan Root's challenging. Just taps off from touching his back bumper there as he came around, but Sarel van der Merwe knows he's got a battle on his hand this time. There's the man that's won the last 3 races, and here he comes, and he's stuck, and he's not losing any speed at all. He's getting a turn. He's going to go past him. He's going to go past him. He goes over the brakes to Sassel Ford, and Willie Hepburn's flown up in a big way. He's got into the pits, and Ben Morgan Root is now showing what he can do. He's starting to put on the pressure. He stayed with him. He tried to pass him on the way down to Holzhoek, and Sarel van der Merwe, he's a tough customer to pass and to beat.
Willie Hepburn is uit die wedren uit. Hy staan in die kuip uit met 'n groot bol rook in die kuip ingetrek. Dit is 'n groot teleurstelling, 'n jammerte. Willie Hepburn ongelukkig nie eers 1 ronde kon voltooi nie. Maar Sarel van der Merwe het vir Ben Morgenrood op sy hakke. En jy kan sien daar is hy. Daar is Willie Hepburn in die moontlik is dit net iets wat aan sy agterwiel geraak het. Hulle is besig om te werk aan die agterkant van die motor. Dalk het hy net iewers iets geraak en het van die bakwerk op die agterband begin skuur. Maar terug, oeps, en Ben het hom dwars. Wow. Netjies, baie netjies om weer gehou. Hy is baie gelukkig. Ek dink hy slaak 'n groot sig van verligting daar. Hy het niks geraak nie. Netjies onder beheer gehou. Ben Morgenrood, maar dis wat betref sy wedren. Hy sal moet wag vir die hele veld om by hom verby te kom voordat hy kan aangaan. Ben Morgenrood, ongelukkig groot teleurstelling. Dit is een van die moeilikste draaie op die baan daar. Die Sarel van der Merwe is sekerlik verlig. Het 'n groot gaping tussen hom en Graham Duxbury en die Sassel Ford. Daar is hy. En Duxbury het 'n skoon baan vir hom. Chris Aberdeen is ver terug in die 3de posisie. Sarel van der Merwe met 8 rondes wat oorbly het nou vir Graham Duxbury agter hom. En hy sal nou waarskynlik baie fyn vir Duxbury dophou om te sien of hy nader kom of nie. Kom ons kyk net weer wat het gebeur is. Die buitekant van daardie baie moeilike Sabred draai het hom verloor blykbaar op die buitekant van die draai op die sagte grond gekom, op die stof gekom en daardie gladde renbande het natuurlik geen vasklou vermoë wanneer hulle nie in 'n reguit rigting beweeg nie. Terug by Graham Duxbury in die 2de posisie. Adrian Pfeiffer, jy ken hierdie manne ook in die Kaap, is 'n goeie wedren tot dusver.
Very good. It's most unfortunate that Morgan Root went out like that. In fact, I can remember Morgan Root spinning off in exactly the same place in his old car, the car that Clive Rice was supposed to be driving today, about 3 or 4 years ago. That time he went even further and he hit the wall over the subway. He nearly went down into the subway. Anyway, that was most unfortunate, and really it spoiled what could have been a great race between him and Sarel van der Merwe. And then, of course, it was most unfortunate that Ben Morgan Root, at least that Willie Hepburn went out.
Nou ja, gepraat van Willie Hepburn, Louis Karpas het onder toe beweeg daar na die kuipe toe. En hy gaan kyk of hy met Willie Hepburn kan gesels. Intussen kyk ons net wat is in die situasie op die oomblik. Graham Duxbury wat alles probeer so ver as wat hy kan om vir Sarel van der Merwe uit te haal. Oor na Louis onder in die kuipe.
Well, there's absolute drama here in the pits with Willie Hepburn. They're absolutely ripping out the back of the car. Willie, what actually happened?
Duxbury hit me from behind.
Graham Duxbury actually hit you from behind.
Duxbury, George Aberdeen.
Where exactly were you lying and what exactly happened in the end?
I was in 3rd place and I came out of the hairpin down the bottom here and he ran into the back of me.
You obviously were looking at trying to repair it and quickly go out, but obviously there's no luck of that.
No. I doubt whether we'll get it fixed with this heat. We'll have to wait for the next heat.
So there you are, the words from Willie Hepburn having a look down at the car. It's absolutely smashed in at the back. And what actually happened was the back of the car has come back up. In fact, Willie Hepburn is now going to go out again Talk about sheer guts and determination. They've ripped the whole back of the car right out, and it looks from where I'm standing that the car, in fact, pieces of the car right up against the wheel, and Willie Hepburn is going out again. Back to you, Roger.
Thanks very much, Louis. And as you say, this is a one man that never gets him down. As he goes out of the pit series, he's just thunder below us. He's below our commentary point. He just thunders out of the race, and that's typical Willie Hepburn. Never gives up, whether the race has been on a few laps or not. He's back in action, and guess who's got ahead of him? He's got Duxbury, the man who caused it, he says, and Sorrel van der Merwe, and it's certainly been in a heavy praying day. And Willie Hepburn, whether he's belted or not, I don't know, but he's going to give it a full go, whether that bodywork hangs on or not, and he's got Aberdeen just behind him. So he's back into the action. We've had 5 laps, half this race has gone. It seems to go so quickly here as Willie Hepburn pours it on as he goes around Castle Corner and heads down towards Duckendip. Ahead of him, he has got Sorrel van der Merwe is in the lead, Graham Duxbury second, Chris Aberdeen is in third, and fourth, incredibly, is Johan Coetzee in that Gearmax Skyline, leading the D-Class. Here they come up on Dick Sorensen, that's Richard Sorensen, in the E-Class car, that's the 1300, that little super rocket car that does so well as they come down the straight. And 72 is Corbin Skrobler, he's in the Opel Kadett. Sorrel starts lapping the slower men now. He'll be coming up to finish 6 laps now, Van der Merwe. He's led it from the beginning. He's not going to give it up now, that's for sure. Graham Duxbury's only about 4 seconds behind him as they come up the road. A hard man to beat as it tears past here. This popping, squeaking Vandercar of South African motorsport. There he is into hold. He's got some very fancy tyres that he's using at the moment. There's not a scratch on that motor car. It's being well driven. He's got this race well under control. You can see Duxbury coming to the picture now as he comes into Castle Corner, heavy on the brakes. Down through the box he goes. He'll be upwards of 240 kilometres, 260 kilometres an hour down these long straights. Look at that masses of acceleration as he goes down to Duckham's Corner. Here he goes. Duckham's as tight as the inside. It's a 4-wheel drive car, 2.2 litres. It's 5 cylinders, it's turbocharged, and it is certainly a mighty machine. There's Duxbury, just behind, not too far behind, and Willie Hepburn's coming up the road ahead of Aberdeen. Willie Hepburn is trying as hard as ever, whether he's got the aerodynamic wings to keep those back wheels on the ground or not. Willie Hepburn is giving it a go. There it is in the big yellow Opel. He's back in the race, and he means business, but he's got no chance of finishing in the top position. 6 laps of this race are gone. We're coming up to the end of 7 laps at the moment, and Willie Hepburn still holding off. Look at the flames coming out the side of that big V8. It's a V8 5.7-litre NASCAR engine. Is Hepburn holding off there? Chris Aberdeen, he's got the 4-wheel drive working, trying to come round the outside of him.
Foutlose wedren die Sorrel van der Merwe, maar hier dink ek gaan harde woorde val aan die einde van hierdie wedren. Mens kan die skade sien aan die agterkant van Willie Hepburn se motor. En mens kan ook as jy mooi kyk die skade sien aan die neus daar van Chris Aberdeen se motor nadat hulle mekaar vasgejaag het. En Hepburn so 2 rondes so wat in die kuipe moes deurbring. Hy's natuurlik uit hierdie wedren uit wat betref die algehele uitslag, maar hy is nie so van man wat ingee nie, en hy gee alles wat hy kan. Chris Aberdeen probeer die buitekant van Castrol draai, maar Willie Hepburn maak weer van toe. En hy sê van, jy bly nog agter my. In klas B is die Winfield BMW van wow, en daar gebeur het weer. Daar gaan harde woorde val. Daar gaan harde woorde val, soos ek gesê het. Chris Aberdeen, die tweede keer wat hy Willie Hepburn vasjaag, en Hepburn dink ek gaan iets vir hom te sê hê wat ek dink nie ons kan herhaal nie. Dit is hy deur Duckens draai. Chris Aberdeen druk net sy motor se neus daar aan die agterkant in, en dit lyk vir my amper asof dit moontlik die onderwerp van 'n protes kan wees aan die einde van hierdie wedren.
Well, Hendrik, I wouldn't like to be in Aberdeen's shoes just at this moment. Willie is going to be spitting fire and brimstone after this. That's his tyre rubbing against the bodywork. That's not the motor car. The tyre has been pushed against the bodywork. But Willie Hepburn, when he finishes his race, I don't know. But he's certainly going to finish this argument off in the pits. He's had a terrible time at the hands there of both Aberdeen and Duxbury. He's not going to be a happy man. And he's an aggressive driver in himself, and he's going flat out. Smoke or not, Willie Hepburn never gives up. He's going flat out. Whether he's after Aberdeen or not, I don't know. Look at the flames coming out. You can't get much more action than that. And in 4th position now, Ben Morgenroot made his way back to 4th spot in the order fit Mazda. Is that tyre going flat? I think the tyre's gone flat on him, but that's not a slowed down either. He'll drive that car to the bitter end. He's taking it slowly around the circuit. And here comes the man now. In 4th position is Ben Morgan, who's got himself through to 4th position. There's the skyline there of Larry Wolford. He's coming up on Johan van Rensburg skyline. There's Wolford coming towards that Sabre skyline. Behind him is that 2-litre car. Something must be wrong with Wolford. As Sorrel goes on his merry way now, he'll be coming up to finish 9 laps. There's just 1 lap to go after this, and this has certainly been action the Cape Town crowds love, Adrian.
It's been tremendous action, it really has. But my sympathies to Willie Hepburn. He really has had a most unfortunate day. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, honestly. And yet he keeps going. He's got tremendous guts. I would have stopped in the pits after that second incident with Aberdeen, certainly, but he kept going, and the smoke seems to have died away a bit. The car seems to be going reasonably well, but out in front, it's still Sarel van der Merwe, no problems, going like a train, absolutely like a train. Yes, there, oh, the tyre's gone. The tyre's gone, he's got to come in now. It's ripped to shreds and it's tearing other pieces of the bodywork off with it. I think he must be fit to be tied right now, really he must be. And there goes Sarel, on his way.
And one of the real problems with that one is Willie Hepburn, who's in line for the title. He's leading Class A. He's been leading the championship. Johan Coetzee just took over at the last meeting at Killarney. So they're having a head-on dice, the two of them. And Willie's been in the wars this afternoon. It's a great pity. But in the meantime, going on his way there, he's on the last lap as he comes towards us at 240 k's plus. Is Sarel van der Merwe, the Springbok, in the work riding. What a polished piece of driving. Here's the Ford Sapphire, not far behind. There's been a lot of work put in there by Jeff Porter and the team in getting this car really. This, I think, is the car that's normally been driven by George Fashie. No, it is, in fact, Graham Duxbury's own motor car. It's got the bigger wing on it. And Sarel comes through got another lap to go. We just got that final lap to go. He's coming up to do his final lap as well. There's Duxbury through. Comes down the road, heavy onto the brakes. They're going to this final lap. We've got just coming past Michael Langford, that very colourful little Golf. There's Graham Duxbury. What a beautiful motor car that Cecil Ford Sapphire really is. The colour scheme, its liveries, it stands out well, it's well driven, and it's now into its last lap. The orders we go through is we've got Sarel van der Merwe in the front. That's the second man in your picture now. Gone through into third position is Morgan Root ahead of Aberdeen.
Ja, inderdaad. Ben Morgenrood was zijn pak ook gezegd. Ik denk Chris Aberdeen heeft ook een probleem met zijn motor. Ben Morgenrood het redelijk gemakkelijk bij hem voorbij gekomen. Het lijkt mij amper visueel in elk geval toen hij bij ons voorbij gekomen is. Nou was Chris Aberdeen heel wat stadiger. Ik denk de temperaturen daar in Willie Hepburn zijn kuipen is absoluut op kookpunt. En ik denk daar gaan baie harde woorden van. Sarel van der Merwe voor de laatste keer in hierdie wedren weer standing draai. En hij is gereed om een geruitenvlag te ontvangen. Een goudloze wedren door die meester van Suid-Afrikaanse motorsport, Sarel van der Merwe. Hij komt oor die wenstreep, vuis in die lucht en hij krijgt die geruitenvlag. En een baie goeie oorwinning voor Sarel van der Merwe. In die tweede plek is dit dan die Cecil Ford Sapphire van Graham Duxbury. Hier kom hy nou in die hoofdbouwvak af. En net so gelukkig met hom is sy spanbestuurder Jeff Mortimer en die hele Cecil Ford span hier onder in die kuipe. Een baie goeie tweede plek. Maar in die derde plek is dit Johan Coetzee. Gaan Ben Morgenrood voorop. Ek wil nie daar so die oordeel vel nie. Dis of Johan Coetzee of Ben Morgenrood wat derde is algeheel. Chris Aberdeen wat baie stadig hier in die plek in die baan afbeweeg. Ek dink nie daar die uitslag is heeltemal soos wat hulle op die ouwe toe geëindig het nie. Chris Aberdeen so pas eers hier oor die wenstreep gekom. En ek dink hy waarskynlik ook 'n probleem met sy motor. As hy is, dan gaan ek baie stadig om hierdie baan ry. Omdat hy so lank as minder kanse gee om verby te kom. Ons kom Johan Coetzee nou so pas oor. En dan Gary Dunkerley. Johan Coetzee wat hier een goeie klas B oorwinning behaal. Dan is Iver Rash in die derde plek in klas B. En Tony Viana in die vierde plek in die debuutwedren van die Winfield BMW. Daar is Willie Hepburn se motor wat besig is om in die kuipe ingestoot te word. Met sy valhelm wat daar op die sitplek lê en ons weet nie, miskien kan ons kameraman die kans kry om net vir ons te wys. Ja, die lig is nie heeltemal soos wat die mense graag sou wou gehad het nie. Ons kan nie mooi sien nie, maar ek is seker dat daar die wiel van hom redelik beskadig is nadat hy hele ruk net op die velling alleen om die baan moes gekom het toe die band heeltemal ingegee het. Daar is Willie Hepburn daar aan die agterkant besig om te kyk na die skade aan sy motor en ek dink dit gaan een van die kontroversiële insidente wees in Wesbank gemodifiseerde sedan motors. Ons gaan kyk of ons dit weer vir u kan wys. Die tweede keer in hierdie wedren volgens Willie Hepburn het Chris Aberdeen vroeër in die wedren ook aan hom vasgejaag en die getuienis was definitief daar. Hier is 'n deurdakkingsdraai. Chris Aberdeen en Willie Hebben wat moontlik net so klein bietjie stadiger is daar deur die draai, maar Chris Aberdeen wat hom redelik hard stamp daar, so hy sit die motor dwars in die draai. Klim op die remme, die roep die trek uit die motor. Kyk net hoe skitterend hou hy hom onder beheer daar. So Aberdeen duik net aan die buitekant weer en Willie Hebben sit die motor weer eens reg en kry hom weer in die regte rigting aan die gang. Daar staan Willie Hebben. Die gesig is 'n prentjie van teleurstelling. Daardie gesig sê alles, maar soos wat ons van Willie Hebben ken, Roger, gaan hy beslis nie opgee nie en gaan hy alles wat hy kan doen probeer om daardie motor van hom reg te kry. Ek dink ons kameraman moet miskien net daar bly. Chris Aberdeen kom hier verbygery. Nee, baie stil en stadig en stemmig gaan hy nou daar na die Audi Kuiper toe. Maar Roger, daar gaan nog baie gesê word oor hierdie insident.
I would say so. It happened at great speed as well. He's really had a tough time there. I see Tim Wolcott, one of his sponsors there from Sabre, helping him to see what he can do about reading the car. It's taken off that wing. There's Aberdeen, not happy at all. He's also not happy after this race, but it's been a very hot race, that one indeed. That's Bernie Mariner comforting him, and I think he's telling him, by the way, you might not know this, but up the road there's a very distraught Willie Hepburn. And Aberdeen saying